So we all three saw in May, December, 20 years after their notorious tabloid romance. A married couple buckle under the pressure when a Hollywood actress meets them to do research for a film about their past life. Directed by Todd Haynes, starring Natalie Portman, as well as Charles Melton, I believe his name is, Julianne Moore. And then those are the main notable actors in this. But good movie. Tyler, you gave your review like a couple weeks ago. I think, George, I think you spoke about it when you first saw it, but we'll start with George. What'd you think about this one? What do you have it rated? All of that.
Yeah, I said to Tyler yesterday when we were talking, I wish I had rewatched this prior to this episode, because I feel like this is like, for me, this is the most like shocking, like all of a sudden Oscar contender. Like I out of the theater thought Natalie Portman was gonna get all the buzz, and I thought that was gonna be it. And I think
she was great.
She was
awesome.
fantastic. That whole monologue she has at the end is just that's like her Oscar clip. Like I could see it already. You know, Natalie Portman, May, December, and then they play that clip. I think my problem with this movie was this was the first film I saw at the film festival. So right after that, I had another 12 releases in the span of 2 weeks. So I think this is just the movie that just kind of went in one ear, out the other, especially because I thought so highly of, you know, Hitman and The Killer and, you know, The Boy and the Heron. I just found these movies just a little bit more intriguing than May, December. So for me, May, December kind of felt like that one movie from the film festival. I just kind of went in one ear, out the other, because it was the first one I watched. And then I just had to focus so heavy on like so many other new releases that I was getting to at the film festival, which again, so I think my thoughts are a bit disingenuous. So I kind of wish I had rewatched it, but I thought it was good. I definitely thought it was fantastic. Again, I'm still surprised by the Oscar buzz. I think it's a very interesting look at sexual abuse. And then Charles Melton's character kind of growing up in this household as this father figure, where he just doesn't have a real grasp of the world or of adulthood, kind of because of his experiences, which I thought really did make for a compelling narrative. I think there are a lot of moments with Charles Melton's character and his children that just kind of are just devastating, just because of what Julianne Moore's character did to Charles Melton. I think Natalie Portman was fantastic. Surprisingly, and I seem to be the only one on this side of, and I'd be curious to hear your guys' thoughts, I did not care for like the soap opera-esque like drama in this movie. Like the scene where Julianne Moore opens the fridge and there's like the really intense music and she's like, oh, we may not have enough hot dogs. Like, I didn't find that funny. I don't care for like soap opera-y style of, you know, film, which if you like that, all the power to you. It's just not my thing. So I don't think the comedy in this worked as well as I would have liked. It's definitely dry, which surprisingly, I typically love dry humor, but this movie, it just didn't work for me. But I don't think it's necessarily like that was its strong suit. I think its narrative between and its I guess rivalry of Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman's character is its standout, as well as Charles Melton's just heartbreaking performance and his character's just like weird situation. So my score right now stands at a 3.5 out of 5. I need to rewatch it, I think, before the end of the year, especially just because of how much Oscar buzz it's getting, and I need to like rework my 2023 ranked list, because I feel like, I don't know, I don't even think it's in my top 40 right now, or top 30 maybe. And I guess I feel like a fraud. But yeah, that's about where I stand with May, December. I definitely thought it was good, but I think just the fact that I had to watch 12 other film festival releases right after just made that just the most forgettable one, unfortunately.
Yeah. Tyler, I think you gave most of your thoughts last
Yeah,
week.
I want to hear your thoughts, Cam.
Yeah, I'll mention mine. I really enjoyed it. I think I'm lower on it than Tyler. I think I have it around I told you guys before we recorded, or maybe I said it when we were recording. I don't know where I was at with this or Godzilla. I didn't have either of them rated, so I'm going to throw like an 82 or around there. 4 out of 5. I liked it about as much as I liked Air, which is about around there. I think it was really great through and through. There were some moments that I didn't necessarily love or necessarily care for as much. I think Charles Melton was fantastic. Definitely best supporting actor worthy. I'll still give it to RDJ just because he's my guy. I gotta go with him. But I do think they had like neck and neck performances. Natalie Portman for me was the best of the two lead actresses, which I don't know if that's a common take or a hot take. I don't know, but I think she was fantastic in this. It's been going around Twitter this week, the like clip of who this is like loosely based on doing an interview with basically the exact scene that's like who was in charge when he was a 13-year-old kid is fucking insanity, man. That scene is probably one of the best of the year in my opinion. And then also seeing the like interview that these people had after the fact is just fucking insanity. Insane look into like sexual assault and like how this guy is just basically a kid still because he was never able to like emotionally grow up at all. He had to like basically turn on adulthood right at 12 or 13, whatever age he was. And then like, I think what did she say? She's I can't remember exactly what she says, but she basically says that she's naive, I think it is, and she's been naive her whole life, and that's kind of what makes her work. Julianne Moore's character, that is, and just I don't know, man. The whole time I'm watching this thing, I was like, this is so fucked up. This entire, and I think that's obviously the point, but it was just like such an odd watch. I think this was a harder watch than like a lot of movies that are just gross and grotesque, but this is just like gross in a different way. And then, like I said, seeing that it's based on like loosely based on a real story is just gross even more. I will say I did watch this after the Purdue game, so maybe I'm not giving it as much respect as I should, as I was just like defeated. But yeah, those are my general thoughts. Not a whole lot of spoilers to get into. But Tyler, you can give your overarching thoughts. I know you already have kind of, and then we can do some spoilers afterwards.
Yeah, I'll just put up the spoilers now since I kind of already gave my like non-spoiler thought, like whatever it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. But yeah, May December. I don't know. I was surprised at how much I did end up liking this, and I'll say something that George said. The kind of soap opera aspect of it, the black comedy aspect of it, because this is categorized, as a black comedy, which a lot of people I think like were like disagreeing with on Twitter. But I was like, I don't know, like clearly there's a lot of like intentionally satirical comedic moments. Comedy doesn't mean it's lighthearted and funny and that you shouldn't take it seriously. Comedy can be devastating like it is in this. But the soap opera moments definitely took me, I wouldn't say they took me out of it, but they took me by surprise. I was not expecting that because I saw this in a theater. And I was like, whoa, like I was, that was kind of out of nowhere. And I kind of wondered because the first time it hits is probably 5-ish minutes in. That hot dog scene is very early on in the movie. So you're kind of wondering like, okay, is this going to be the whole rest of the movie? They do use it pretty few and far between, which I enjoy it. I see what they were going for, I guess, but I didn't love that aspect of it. So just kind of wanted to touch on that, but this movie is just devastating, man. Like Natalie Portman's turn as she goes through this chess match with Julianne Moore throughout this movie of just trying to figure out what makes her tick. But at the same time, Julianne Moore, you think is this naive woman who's kind of just laying it all out there. And you're like, wow, this woman's crazy, which she is. She's like crazy. She's disgusting and gross, but you kind of just think she's just like this rich, privileged woman who's just letting it all out there. But then you kind of realize as the movie goes on, she's being very calculated about what she's showing and what she's telling and what she's revealing to Natalie Portman. So it's kind of just this game of what's being revealed, what's not being revealed. Natalie Portman making Daniel Day-Lewis look like a basic bitch when it comes to method acting. Like she goes all the way to freaking level 12 out of 10. Charles Melton, I loved right out of the theater. I was like, if he won Best Supporting Actor, I'd be happy about it. I don't really know what they do with the two leads. I think they're both great, but like, I don't know how you can make one supporting and one lead. Like they both got to be leads, like, cause they're kind of like both. I don't know. If you had to pick one, I'd probably say Natalie Portman's the lead since we kind of view the movie through her eyes. But yeah, it's gonna be weird what they end up doing for nomination wise. But I thought the acting in this all around was great, especially the kids. I loved the rooftop scene of the kid smoking weed with his dad. And, I love the line, like, am I creating, or are we bonding right now? Or am I just creating a bad memory for you? I thought that was really great. I thought the final scene of this movie was so heartbreaking. Well, not the final scene. It's like the second to last scene. It was so heartbreaking at the graduation ceremony where Charles Melton's kids graduate, and you basically realize they are now mentally and emotionally more mature than he is and have basically passed him in age, which is just so devastating to see. I just thought he was so good in this. I saw that it said he gained like 20 pounds or 30 pounds for this role. If I could gain 30 pounds and still look like that, I would give my left nut for that. Like I swear, like how was he? He wasn't a twig before this. Like
no, dude, I was looking at pictures of him and I'm like, this dude got a nice jaw.
Yeah, and he still had a nice jawline in this movie. Like, how do you put on 40 pounds and still look like that good? I was like, screw you, man. Like you're too good looking. But yeah, this movie was just such a sick look at not only grooming culture and sexual assault, but the glorification of the grotesque in the world today with movies being made about stuff that's crazy that happens. Obviously a big thing in the world is true crime right now. And it's also becoming a big thing to critique true crime podcasts and true crime TV shows and movies, because, you know, what do? Like the craziest murder or sexual assault or the craziest, most gross thing ever in the world happens. And what do? You immediately rush to talk about it for 2 hours and have sponsors and ads and get money off it and get views off it. And this is definitely another look at that as well, because Natalie Portman is trying to make a movie about this woman who's doing something just despicable. I think there's a lot of racial undertones in this movie as well, where they live in an affluent white community, and Charles Melton comes from the one Asian family that in the community. I think that's definitely intentional as well. And it's just wild to see how they're all just living happy, like, you know, quote unquote happy in terms of that community, because the community kind of just accepted them at this point. It's been like 20 years they've been together. So they were all kind of like, yeah, they're the weird family. It's just normal at this point. We don't think much of it, when obviously it's very far from normal. And I think it's just a good analysis of society and how we treat, you know, group. Like there's so many relationships that go on that they kind of last for so long. You don't look at, you know, how wrong it might end up being. Like there's plenty that film Twitter always talks about. I think the big one is like Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, I saw that tweet a lot about
but it's been going on, you know, for so long. You kind of just like are like, oh, it's normal. Like they're an exception, but like, are they? Like you just never really know. And that's kind of, this movie is just a fascinating look at that. Yeah, like there's just so many devastating moments in this movie. The most has to be for me when she says like, this is just what grown-ups do to Charles Melton. Like, man, just like crushing this dude who's emotionally the age of like 14 or 15 years old. And like, she's just using him. And it's just one thing I kind of want to get your guys' interpretation on. If you remember, George, I know it's been probably a month or more for you, and Cam, I know you watched it, you know, late last night or whatever. But like the end, like, so the one thing I still don't know, which I think I want to rewatch to understand, is so Julianne Moore has a son.
Yeah.
And basically they never, like, you kind of get the idea that he's a estranged son. They never talk. They never see each other. But then at the end, he kind of is like, tells Natalie Portman, he's like, we actually talk every day. We're like best buds. Like, I don't know what to take away from that. She
reveals that, right? Like Julianne Moore reveals that to Natalie.
Right, yeah. Julianne Moore reveals that. And then I think the son says something to Natalie Portman on the bench before that like adds confusion to the relationship.
Yeah. I kind of took that as just like you said, Tyler, and I said it earlier, where she is naive, or says she's naive, but like she knows it. And then you said like she's actually very calculated and just kind of like she's very methodical, and just like she probably knows she's doing this shitty thing, but like she wants it to happen and she's gonna make it happen no matter what. And she like plays everyone else like a puppet basically, and like you said, lives on this island where everyone's kind of accepted it at this point, and she's almost manipulated them to make it seem like it's been accepted. And she's almost like manipulated Natalie Portman to make Natalie Portman think she's naive. And then she's actually got this much more methodical thinking, and she's not good friends, but like talks to her son every day, who, by the way, played by I looked at Charles Melton's filmography, so I'm off the screen, played by Corey Michael Smith, the Riddler from Gotham. It's the first time I've ever seen him in anything else. So yeah, hell yeah, you. But yeah, I think it's more just like she's had this methodical like planning of life this entire time, and she's planned out every moment after prison and knows how she's going to skate by. Like inviting an actress to your life, even though like you've done this crazy thing, is absurd in the first place. But I think that kind of is the reveal that like she knew what she was doing the whole time and was fine with this actress coming onto the island and seeing them. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I took away. If that's an answer.
I thought the very last scene was so funny. How like she goes through all this effort to be this method actress, and then it ends up being like it just looks like a soap opera, like a Lifetime
movie.
Yeah. I didn't remember this, but I saw someone tweet it. So they said like I think one of the movies that Natalie Portman's character was in was Nora's Ark or something. So clearly she's like probably a very C tier actress, is in these like spaghetti movies that aren't that great, but like she's treating her like life as if she's the most serious, like the Daniel Day-Lewis of her society, but she ends up being in just the most like cheesy, corny, basic movies ever. And she goes through all this crazy psychotic effort just to be in a movie that looks like it's, $20,000 production that's going to be on, Hallmark or like True TV or something, like never going to even make a theatrical release. So I thought that was just like a funny way to end it. And the ending also, someone made this comparison. It reminded me a lot of Blowout's ending we talked about, where it's kind of like you go through all this and you kind of have to deal with all the torture you just put yourself through in order to get to where you are. And that's kind of Natalie Portman, kind of similar to the end of Blowout, where he goes through all that to get those screams, and he's just hearing it in the movie over and over. But I think Natalie Portman's a lot less remorseful than John Travolta would be. But I was surprised how much I like this, honestly. I'll be interested to see how it goes throughout award season. I feel like every year we see movies that pick up momentum, then lose momentum, and then movies will come out of nowhere still. And I'm sure like the Golden Globes will throw a big wrench into things. Like it's always fun to track those things. I think a lot of people talked about Barbarian last year, how casting Bill Skarsgård, is that the one who plays Pennywise? Is it Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah. Casting him was such a great idea because you think like, oh, he's like the villain because he's, played this villainous guy. I think Charles Melton's just as spirited as a casting decision. Like obviously everyone only knows him from Riverdale. So in your mind, you associate him with a teen who's not really an adult, makes dumb little kid decisions. And so putting him in the movie like this, where he's a full-fledged adult with kids that are graduating high school, just like it's a great juxtaposition for the audience to see that and really kind of help hammer home the point they're trying to make. Also, writing credit. This is the first written movie by these two writers. So the two writers were Alex Mechanic and Sammy Birch. So Alex Mechanic has no other writing credits. Sammy Birch only has one other one. And that only other writing credit is Coyote vs. Acme, the movie that was scrapped by Max. So
interesting.
Excited to see it now. This is all she's made. But this movie is written like 4 years ago. I just found out about something called The Blacklist. I don't know if you guys ever heard that. It's for
You've never heard of The Blacklist?
I'm not talking about the TV show. I'm talking about
sorry.
For people in the industry. I don't know if you play sports growing up in America, you know what huddle is. It's where you like put your film tape and then coaches can look at it when they're scouting you. It's kind of the film version of that. Like the screenplay was put on there in 2020, and basically producers in the industry have to pay like $50 to read it. Like people can put their screenplay up there, and people in the industry have to pay to read these screenplays. But it's kind of like where you put your stuff. You're like, hey, got the screenplay out here. People in the industry pay money and they can read it and then be like, yeah, we want to pick you up. So 4 years ago, this was put on The Blacklist. But I just found out about that. It's like the huddle version for people in the industry to just put up their tape in like a serious way for people in the industry. I think the reason only like $50 is so minor cost for people in the industry, but I feel like the only reason they do that is because they don't just want every average Joe just to go on there and be like, yeah, look at my acting tape, man. Like it's gotta be more serious than that. But yeah, I've rambled about this movie too long. I had a blast with it. Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. But right now it's definitely seeing its time in the spotlight.
I do think it'll win. My guess is that at least 2 Oscars for something, whether it's writing.
I can't think of anything else for original screenplay that would be
I don't,
because Adapted's the stacked one this year.
Does this count as adapted if it's based on a true story? I know it's not.
It's not fully based.
I know.
I think this
I think
original.
It's just, if you steal something from an interview, I feel like you got to make it. I feel like it's got to be adapted. But
like Oppenheimer, Killers, The Flower and Barbie,
Lives.
those are all adapted. It's Past Lives. See, I feel like Past Lives and May December probably the two
Past
big
Lives. They're going to be the two big
original ones.
Or Anatomy of a Fall, depending on how much steam that gets going into Oscar season.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet, but I've heard nothing but good things. Okay. That's our review of May December. So 4.5 out of 5 from Tyler, 82-ish out of 100 for me. By the time this goes up, I'll have everything on Letterboxd to see what I actually rate everything. And then a 3.5 out of 5 for George. But I think we all enjoyed May December. Moving on now.